50 Cent lands in Houston thinking he's untouchable. Private jets, private security, global fame. But the city already knew he was there. He never checked in with J. Prince. Seconds later, his chain was gone. No chaos, no struggle, just a clean, calculated message. 50 Cent went completely silent. Now the whole industry is asking, did he just get reminded who really runs Houston? 50 Cent lands in Houston thinking he's untouchable. Private security, luxury hotel, global reputation. The man who took 9 bullets and built an empire. But the second he stepped off that plane, the city already knew he was there. No announcement, no press, no warning. Word spread like wildfire. Most people would say that's normal for a superstar. But in Houston, that kind of attention means something completely different. It means you're being watched. And people were asking one simple question. Did he check in? When the answer came back, silence. No call, no message, no respect paid to the one name that quietly runs the power structure in Houston, J. Prince. That's when everything changed. At first, everything looked smooth. 50 Cent checked into one of the most secure, high-end hotels in the city, moving like a man who's survived worse. But behind the scenes, the mood was shifting. According to insiders, once it was clear he hadn't checked in, the energy flipped. Then it happened quick, clean, and impossible to ignore. His chain gone. His security caught slipping. The message loud and crystal clear. This wasn't random. This wasn't luck. This was a statement. And the craziest part, 50 Cent went completely silent. No posts, no rants, no clapback. If you know 50, that silence speaks volumes. Now the real question isn't just what happened, it's who made sure it happened. To understand this story, you first have to understand one truth. Houston is not like other cities. In most places, fame protects you, money protects you, reputation protects you. But in Houston, none of that matters if you don't understand the system. And at the center of that system sits one man, J. Prince. To outsiders, he might look like just another music executive. But to those in the know, he built something much bigger, an entire ecosystem. A network that connects the streets, the music industry, business, and real power. And the foundation of it all. Respect. Not optional, not negotiable, required. That's where the check-in rule comes in. When a major artist or high-profile figure comes to Houston, they're expected to reach out, acknowledge the powers that be. It's not about bowing down, it's about understanding how the city actually moves. Checking in doesn't just show respect, it provides protection. Once the right people know you're there, you're no longer moving alone. But if you don't check in, you're on your own. And according to sources, that's exactly where 50 Cent found himself. He had the money, the fame, the security, and the battle scars, but he allegedly skipped the one thing Houston values most: protocol. This isn't the first time we've heard these kinds of whispers about big names in Houston. Some stories stay quiet, others become hip-hop legend, but they all send the same message. Houston plays by its own rules. And J. Prince's influence reaches far beyond the city limits. So when a man like 50 Cent, whose entire brand is built on "I don't answer to nobody," steps into that world, attention is almost guaranteed. Two different philosophies collided. One side, 50 Cent's fearless independence. Other side, Houston's unwritten code of respect and structure. And when those two worlds meet, something's gotta give. The moment 50 landed, the network already knew. That's how locked in Houston is. Information moves fast. So when it became obvious he wasn't checking in, it didn't go unnoticed. It became a conversation. And once that conversation started behind the scenes, it didn't just fade away. It spread like smoke through the city's underground networks. Because in Houston, it was never just about one man's decision. It was about how that decision was perceived. Was 50 Cent's silence ignorant? Was it pure confidence? Or was it a deliberate statement? A bold, "I don't answer to anybody" flex from one of the most independent figures in hip-hop history. In environments like this, perception is reality, and reality always leads to action. While 50 moved through Houston like business as usual, checking into a luxury hotel, surrounded by his elite security team, handling meetings, and carrying that untouchable energy, something else was quietly brewing. The energy in certain circles had already shifted. He was no longer being viewed as the invincible global superstar who survived 9 bullets. In that moment, he was seen as a powerful outsider moving outside the system. And in Houston, stepping outside the system is where things can get dangerous, fast. Because once you're no longer under that invisible layer of protection, anything can happen. And according to the story circulating among insiders, something did happen, swift, surgical, and loaded with meaning. It wasn't just about taking a chain. It was about delivering a message the entire industry is still trying to decode. Everything looked completely normal until it didn't. 50 Cent was navigating the city the way any major artist would. Tight schedule, trust. The inner circle, private security, and a stay at one of Houston's most secure high-end hotels. On the surface, he was untouchable. But beneath that calm exterior, the mood had already changed the second it became clear he hadn't reached out to Jay Prince. Sources say the conversation started quietly, no panic, no loud threats, just controlled discussions between people who instantly understood what 50's silence meant. He's in the city, and he didn't make the call. That was enough. In Houston, awareness is power. And once awareness turned into opportunity, the window opened. Hours passed. 50 continued moving like nothing was wrong, handling business, staying in controlled environments, projecting that signature confidence. Then, in a moment that shocked everyone who heard the details, it went down. According to multiple insiders, the incident unfolded near his hotel, in an area tied to his established routine. That's the first red flag that raised eyebrows across the city. This wasn't a random public appearance or a crowded event. It was a relatively controlled zone. Yet somehow, the right people knew exactly where to be. No long buildup, no warning, just a sudden, precise strike. Reports describe individuals approaching with clear intent, focused, coordinated, moving nothing like desperate street opportunists. Within seconds, it was over. The chain was gone. The situation contained. The message delivered. What makes this story stick with people is how clean it allegedly was. No chaotic brawl. No wild struggle that would draw unnecessary attention. No messy scene. It was quick, professional, and efficient, the kind of execution that makes you wonder if it was ever random at all. Random robberies are loud, sloppy, and unpredictable. This one felt calculated. And that's exactly where the real tension explodes, because now the question is just what happened. It's why did it happen this way? Was it bad luck and perfect timing? Or was it something deeper? A direct response to 50 Cent skipping the one unwritten rule Houston demands from heavyweights. If it was connected, then this wasn't a simple robbery. It was a statement, a reminder. Now let's talk about the reaction, or more accurately, the lack of one. Because if there's one thing the world expects from 50 Cent, it's noise. This is the man who turned every beef, every setback, and every challenge into content. He's built a career on clapping back harder, faster, and funnier than anyone else. But after this incident, complete silence. No Instagram posts, no viral rants, no cryptic subtitles, no subliminals, nothing. That silence hit different. Fans immediately noticed. Why isn't he saying anything? This doesn't feel like 50. The more people sat with it, the more unsettling it became. When a man known for being loud suddenly goes ghost quiet, it usually means one thing: he understands something the public doesn't. According to insiders, 50 wasn't oblivious after the fact. He got the message loud and clear, not necessarily every name involved, but the meaning behind it. In Houston, that message is consistent: you didn't follow protocol. And once that realization landed, everything shifted for him. This wasn't about rushing to recover jewelry or launching a public war. This was about calculation. The wrong move could escalate things far beyond a lost chain. So he stayed silent, not out of fear, but out of strategic awareness. He understood this wasn't a typical social media beef you can win with bars or memes. This was tied to a deeper system, a network, a structure that operates on its own rules. And when you're caught in that web, you have to move differently. But just when the narrative seemed straightforward, 50 didn't check in, so he paid the price. New details started leaking that made everything more complicated and darker. One insider claim suggested that skipping the check-in removed the usual layer of protection, creating the perfect opening. But that wasn't the full picture. Something more specific, more targeted, allegedly pushed the situation forward. If true, this wasn't just about being unprotected. It was about being chosen. That raises a much more dangerous question. Why 50 Cent? Why that exact moment? Why that precise situation? A general message to outsiders could have been sent in a dozen different ways. But the timing, the location, the clean execution, it all felt too perfect, too intentional. And that's where the real mystery begins. Because now we're not looking at a simple consequence of one arrogant decision. We're looking at a situation shaped by multiple layers: respect, power dynamics, old codes, and possibly personal tensions we still don't fully see. Information about 50's arrival didn't just spread after he landed. According to sources, it was moving through the networks before he even settled in. His movements were being tracked quietly and precisely. In a city like Houston, information doesn't float random. It travels through tightly connected circles, streets, music, business, and influence, all linked under a structure where figures like Jay Prince sit at the center. Once it became crystal clear that 50 had no intention of checking in, the situation allegedly shifted from simple awareness to calculated opportunity. Someone, somewhere, saw a rare window. One of the biggest, most independent names in hip-hop was moving without the usual safeguards that protocol provides. Timing like that rarely happens by accident. Knowing exactly where someone is, knowing when they're most vulnerable, and executing without creating chaos requires more than luck. It requires structure, coordination, intelligence. The more people examined the details, the more it felt orchestrated, almost too perfect. Then came another layer that complicated the story even further. According to one well-placed insider, the chain itself wasn't really the point. It was the symbolism. Taking something so visible, so tied to status and survival, especially from a man famous for surviving 9 bullets, sent a louder message than any words could. This wasn't about random greed. It was about reminding everyone, including 50 Cent, that no matter how big your name is globally in Houston, the local ecosystem still demands respect. The silence that followed only amplified the story. While the streets whispered, the industry watched closely. Some saw it as a necessary humbling. Others viewed it as proof that old power structures still flex harder than most outsiders realize. Either way, the incident left a lingering question hanging over the entire situation. Did 50 Cent underestimate Houston's unwritten rules? Or did he deliberately test them, knowing exactly who he was dealing with? As more details continue to surface in private circles, one thing becomes clear: this story is far from over. What started as a simple visit to Houston turned into a masterclass in power dynamics, respect, perception, and consequence. And in the end, whether you believe it was random bad luck or a calculated response to skipped protocol, the real winner might be the city itself, once again reminding the world that Houston moves on its own terms. That single line changed everything. If the chain wasn't the real goal, then what was? According to multiple sources deep inside the culture, the answer is brutally simple: the message. In these environments, actions don't just speak louder than words, they shout. And what happened to 50 Cent that day in Houston spoke volumes. But just when the story seemed to settle into, he didn't check in, so he paid the price. A new layer dropped, one that makes the whole situation even murkier and more dangerous. Insiders now claim there may have been prior tension brewing behind the scenes. Small signals, quiet conversations, subtle warnings that something wasn't sitting right long before 50 even landed. If that's true, then this wasn't just a spontaneous reaction to a skipped phone call. It was the result of a slow-building chain of events that finally reached a breaking point. Let's talk about the silence again, because this is where the story gets really interesting. After the incident, 50 Cent did something completely out of character. He stayed silent. No immediate posts, no emotional rants, no savage clapbacks, nothing. At first, people found it strange, then suspicious. Now, many see it as intentional and calculated, because in a situation this delicate, saying the wrong thing doesn't just escalate, it can spiral completely out of control. Sources close to the situation say 50 understood the stakes perfectly. So instead of turning it into public entertainment, he kept everything controlled behind closed doors. But here comes the most shocking twist yet. Just when everyone thought they had it figured out, a new theory started spreading through the culture like wildfire. And this one flips the entire narrative on its head. According to voices deep in the Houston ecosystem, the real power in the city isn't about punishing outsiders. It's about maintaining balance. These situations don't only happen to teach one person a lesson. They happen to send a reminder to everyone watching. Every artist, every executive, every celebrity thinking about stepping into Houston without acknowledging the system. The message is loud and clear. The rules still apply, no matter how big your name is. No exceptions. And yet, despite all the insider talk, all the perfectly timed details, and all the speculation, there's still no official confirmation. No full video footage. No detailed police report. Nothing concrete. We're only seeing fragments, pieces of a puzzle without the full picture. That's exactly what makes this story so addictive and so dangerous. When the full truth stays hidden, the narrative can shift at any moment. And right now, the biggest question hanging over the entire situation is this: was this truly just the consequence of skipping protocol? Or is there something much deeper, some unrevealed tension, old beef, or hidden motive that still hasn't come to light? Because if more details drop, this story could flip completely and change how people move in Houston forever. By the time the story leaked beyond private circles and hit the streets and timelines, the reaction wasn't just curiosity, it was pure shock. 50 Cent, the man known for surviving 9 bullets, building an empire through sheer willpower, and never backing down, caught slipping in Houston. It didn't compute for a lot of people. At first, many thought it was fake or heavily exaggerated. But as more voices from inside the culture began quietly confirming pieces of the story, the tone changed fast. Social media stopped asking if it happened. They started fighting over what it meant. The conversation quickly split into 2 intense camps. Side 1, this proves the code is real. This group saw the incident as validation, proof that Houston's power structure, heavily tied to figures like Jay Prince, isn't just internet folklore. It's very real and it still works. Their take: you can't walk into another man's city ignore how things operate, and expect to move like you're untouchable. Respect isn't optional, it's survival. To them, 50's silence wasn't weakness. It was confirmation. If it wasn't serious, he would have been posting by now. Side 2. This feels like control, not respect. The other side pushed back hard. They argued this isn't tradition, it's pressure. Why should any grown man have to check in just to be safe in a city? To them, it sounded less like cultural respect and more like an underground protection racket. This perspective gained serious traction because, from that angle, the situation stops looking like old-school etiquette and starts looking like enforcement. Meanwhile, inside the industry, people were reacting, but carefully. No one wanted to say too much directly. Instead, you saw subtle posts, cryptic captions, and vague tweets that clearly referenced the situation without naming names. One insider posted, "Every city has a system. Ignore it at your own risk." Another wrote, "Power isn't what you have, it's where you are." Those lines spread like crazy. Screenshots went viral. Artists were liking and quietly reposting. Everyone was watching, but nobody wanted to get pulled into the middle. Yet out of every reaction, one detail stood taller than the rest: 50 Cent's silence. This is the same man who turns every beef into content, every conflict into a moment, and every slight into a viral post. But this time, radio silence. And that silence didn't just raise eyebrows, it changed how the entire situation was perceived. In a world where everyone defends themselves instantly, choosing to stay quiet feels extremely intentional. It makes people uneasy, because it suggests he understood something the rest of us don't. As the debate grew louder, the conversation stopped being about one lost chain in Houston. It became something much bigger. Power versus fame. Local influence versus global reputation. Street code versus industry freedom. At the center of it all, one uncomfortable truth kept rising to the surface. Fame doesn't protect you everywhere. Money doesn't guarantee safety. And in certain places, respect isn't automatically earned through success. It's earned through acknowledgement. Right now, the industry is watching closely, because situations like this don't just affect one person, they change how everyone moves. Artists, executives, and celebrities are quietly asking themselves, do you check in or do you risk it? Is it respect or is it pressure? And most importantly, what happens next? Because if this situation proved anything, it's that some rules in certain cities haven't changed, and ignoring them still comes with consequences. But here's the real question that nobody can answer yet. Was this just a one-time message, or a warning shot for what's coming next? Because if it's the second option, then trust me, this story is far from over. Just when it felt like we had the whole situation figured out, the narrative suddenly flipped on its head. Up until now, everything seemed straightforward. 50 Cent touched down in Houston, skipped the protocol, didn't check in with the powers that be, and paid the price. Simple, clean, easy to digest. But then a new detail surfaced that shattered that simple story and changed everything. Late one night, while fans and insiders were still dissecting every second of the incident, someone noticed something strange about the timeline. Not the robbery itself, but what happened before it went down. According to a growing number of voices close to the culture, there may have been warnings. Not loud public threats, not obvious beef, but subtle signals, quiet conversations that felt off. Small moments where people allegedly hinted that 50's presence in the city was already a topic of discussion in certain CI. Arclez whispers that something wasn't sitting right. Let that sink in. If those warnings were real, then this situation didn't explode out of nowhere. It had been building quietly in the background, like pressure building inside a sealed room right before the walls crack. Now here's where it gets even more intense. If the warnings actually existed, One unavoidable question hits you right in the face. Did 50 know? And if he did, why didn't he act on it? A man at 50 Cent's level doesn't move blindly through any major city, especially not one with a well-known structure and deep-rooted codes. He survived worse. He reads rooms. He understands power dynamics better than most. So if he knew the temperature was rising and still chose not to make that call, then we're no longer talking about a simple mistake. We're talking about a calculated decision. And if that's the case, everything we thought we knew about this incident needs to be completely reconsidered. Instead of asking, what went wrong, we now have to ask a much darker question. What was the real intention behind his moves in Houston? That's where the story takes its darkest turn yet. Another claim started circulating quietly at first, then spreading faster through insider channels. According to one well-placed source, the incident wasn't the opening move. It was the response. Think about that for a second. If the chain snatching was a reaction, then something else must have triggered it. Something we haven't fully seen or understood yet. That single idea cracks the door open to an entirely different narrative. Suddenly, this stops being just about 50 Cent entering Houston and not checking in. It becomes about what he was actually doing while he was there. Because remember, he wasn't on some casual vacation. He had business connections, plans, moves that went beyond a quick appearance. And in a city where influence runs deep and territories are carefully guarded, those kinds of moves don't go unnoticed. So the question shifts again. Was his presence seen as neutral or as a threat? If certain people perceived 50 as stepping into business, influence, or territory that wasn't his to claim, then the reaction might not have been about protocol alone. It might have been about control, pure and simple. Here's the twist that complicates the entire picture even more. While everyone keeps focusing on Jay Prince and the famous check-in rule, there's another angle that hasn't been fully explored. The possibility that multiple groups, multiple perspectives, and multiple sets of interests were involved. In environments like Houston, power isn't always sitting neatly in one person's hands. It's layered, overlapping, sometimes competing. When several layers align at the exact same time, situations don't happen for just one reason, they happen because different forces collide. And that's exactly what this feels like. The precision of the timing, the clean execution, the coordinated approach, the heavy silence that followed, none of it screams random street robbery. It points to something bigger, something more structured, something strategic. Then came the most chilling detail of all. An unconfirmed but rapidly spreading statement from someone allegedly at the scene. He should have made the call. That line hits different. It doesn't just describe what happened, it explains why it happened. If that quote is real, the entire incident transforms from a simple robbery into a loud, unmistakable message. Not just to 50 Cent, but to every artist, every executive, every celebrity who believes their global fame and reputation alone is enough to move however they want. The message is crystal clear. In certain cities, there are still rules. Ignoring them doesn't just create risk, it creates consequences. Yet here's the part nobody can fully explain. Despite all the speculation, all the insider whispers, and how perfectly the pieces seem to line up, there is still no complete picture. No full footage has surfaced. No official detailed breakdown. Just fragments, rumors, and moments stripped of full context. That's exactly what makes this story so powerful and so dangerous. When the full truth stays hidden, the narrative can shift at any moment. One new video, one person deciding to speak out, or one leaked detail could flip the entire script overnight. Imagine it. What if clear footage suddenly drops? What if someone close to the situation finally talks? What if details emerge that show a completely different sequence of events? Everything we're debating right now changes instantly. Because at this moment, we're not looking at cold, hard facts. We're looking at a story built on interpretation, perspective, and what people believe happened. And belief isn't always reality. Reality has a funny way of revealing itself when you least expect it. So now we're left with one final, heavy question hanging over the whole situation. Was this truly just a harsh lesson in respect and protocol? Or is there something much deeper happening behind the scenes, old tensions, business conflicts, hidden agendas that still hasn't been exposed? Because if there is, then this isn't only about one night in Houston. This is about power, control, and the unwritten rules that quietly govern how the music industry really moves beneath the surface. And if those rules start getting dragged into the light, this won't stay one isolated story. It could be the spark that kicks off something much bigger across the entire culture. Now I need to hear from you. This situation just went from simple street talk to seriously complex. Do you think 50 Cent made a mistake by not checking in? Or do you believe no artist, no matter where they go, should ever have to follow those kinds of unwritten rules? What about Jay Prince's influence? Is this really about respect and tradition, or is it something deeper and more controlling? And here's the biggest question of all. Was this situation truly random bad luck, or does it feel like it was carefully designed to send a message? Drop your honest opinion in the comments. No filters, no cap, every perspective matters right now. And if you made it all the way to the end of this breakdown, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because if new details drop, if someone finally speaks out, or if another major twist hits this story, and trust me, it feels like one is coming, you already know we'll be breaking it down immediately, no holding back. This story isn't over. Not even close. The next update could change everything all over again.